We'll hear argument this morning in case 23477, United States versus Skrmetti. Mr. Strangio?
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court.
It's good to meet you at last. I'm surprised we never met after Disclosure. So I really, really enjoyed the film. It was great. Because it's important for us all in the community to realize how tough it is for our trans brothers and sisters. Is it important to you as a filmmaker to also educate us as well as entertain us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think my filmmaking is motivated by my activist interests, right? And also being an educator. I taught college for about a decade.
You did?
I did. And so, yeah, everything is informed by these urgent issues that I feel need a platform. And I come from the angle of, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's without trying to point fingers or cast blame. And so that it comes with the projects I make. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about your film, Heightened Scrutiny, which I managed to see at the world premiere at Sundance, where I absolutely loved. And the first time I'd seen Chase and what he's up to. Could you tell us briefly in your words what it's about without giving it all away?
Yeah. And thank you for coming to the premiere. I'm so glad you're able to see it. Yeah, Heightened Scrutiny follows Chase Strangio, who you mentioned, as he's preparing to defend access to puberty blockers and hormones for young people when it was going to be argued in a landmark Supreme Court case, LW versus Skrmetti, and that was argued in December. And so we started following Chase, I guess, from June until December. July rather to December, but we had started doing interviews before that to show with journalists to show how the mainstream media has impacted the criminalization of trans bodies, which has really led to the surge of anti-trans laws across the country.
Can you explain the historical importance of Chase being the first trans lawyer to argue a case before there?
Chase is the first out trans lawyer to argue the case. And I think it's an important distinction because we don't know who's trans and who's not, right? So he's the first out trans lawyer, and it's terribly significant. There was Thurgood Marshall, there was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and now there's Chase. So it's so crucial for people who live the lives that are being dissected to speak for themselves. Right. I mean, and this is in every form, like in films and in the courts. So it's, yes, there's historical significance because he's the first, but there's the historical necessity of having a trans person from the community, deeply connected and embedded in the community to represent us on behalf of the case.
Is there a lot of pressure as he's trans to perform better than a non-trans person?
You'll have to ask Chase that.
Well, do you see that happening as an outsider then? You were there?
Do I see him experiencing more pressure?
Yeah.
I mean, I think whenever your identity is part of how you're spoken about in public, that makes you a lot more vulnerable.
Yeah. One of the many things I'm learning from the film was a revelation to me of how nasty the liberal media had got in the past year. What do we put that down to?
When I started the film, it was all about the media. It was before the case had been announced.
Yeah.
And that was my question. Why are they doing this? Why are they turning against us? They were celebrating us, 2 years earlier. I started the film in 2023. And the media really started to in 2021, but really shifted in 2022. And that was my question, why and who? And then I very quickly understood that it wasn't about who or why or what, it was about how are we going to change this? How are we going to pivot? Like, how are we going to move forward? And that's, again, that's the approach of, I'm not trying to blame people, even though I may have an opinion on why people might be doing it.
We all.
Film is about, okay, we see this problem, but we're not just diagnosing the problem. We're not just pointing fingers. We're saying this is how we're going to change and do better.
So this icons are a word battered around a lot, but I really believe that Chase is a true icon, and the thing he did so well. What qualifies him so perfectly for this important role, do you think?
I'm sure a lawyer could speak to this
Okay.
much more specifically. From what I've observed, he is brilliant. He's passionate. He has an incredibly creative legal mind. That's from a layman. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Um, but his dedication, his love for his clients, and he comes from grassroots activism.
yeah,
And I think that's really crucial and has really just I believe, I can't
yeah,
speak for him again, but I believe that's grounded him in a way um, that is necessary for for people like him to
yeah.
succeed the ways that
I,
he has.
in the same way, it's important to me that we are telling our own stories,
Yes.
whichever part of the queer community come from. And so it was important to me to see him, sorry, they representing us in the Supreme Court like that, because you find it's true and valid. Um, the ruling is expected in June, I
Mm,
believe. Are
mm.
you guessing which way it's going to go?
The opinion will be released sometime in June. Um, and, you know, we don't know.
Okay,
We just don't know. Anything can happen.
you're not going to give me a guess.
I mean, I am not an optimistic person in
You're
general.
not?
I am not. I am a critic.
Okay,
I'm a critic.
yeah.
And so it doesn't begin and end with media. I look at the whole world through a very specific lens, and I don't trust institutions. And I don't, our ability to survive and thrive doesn't begin and end with the law. The
Yeah,
law certainly helps a lot, but it doesn't begin and end there. And so what I'm trying to do with my work and with this film is, talk about, okay, now what? What are we going to do? Um, we know what way this has gone in some
mhm,
states, and what are we going to do to care for each other? Because that's how all queers, all
yeah,
trans people, that is how we've survived.
yeah, yeah.
Institutions and the law have not been on our side.
No,
So
because I'm thinking about the deafening silence from the Democrats now, which gets me so fiercely angry. Are we meant to, as queer people, take up the challenge ourselves then, as them doing nothing to help us and our community?
I think local change is all that we have
Yeah,
power over.
yeah. Because it's so the way that this administration has taken on the trans community as the biggest target is it's unbelievable, but it's slightly for the old gay people like me. We remember when it happened to us in a way, but I don't think it happened with such violence as this. Tell me now. We just talked before we started filming. You're in New York now, and I'm going to see you in Provincetown, and you're doing a host of film festivals. What is the life for the movie after the festivals?
We are just starting the festivals. I mean, since Sundance, we've done, I think, nearly 40, or
Wow.
we're booked for nearly 40, maybe that's it.
So
And
just to kind of stop there, are you doing straight and gay film festivals?
yeah, we'll do everywhere.
That's great.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's important in different ways to queers and to straight people. I mean, as you know, the queer community is not all supportive of trans
No,
people, right?
no.
So it's a very different conversation, or actually maybe it's kind of similar. But I think there's still this idea of trans people are distracting, the world from the general gay and lesbian issues. And I think that's part of the reason we've ended up here. There are many, many reasons. But I do want, queers who are not wrapping their arms around trans people, specifically young trans people, because
Mhm.
that's who all these laws at this moment are being targeted towards.
Yeah,
And I do think you're right that this is very different than the gay movement, in like, I think you're probably like, 60s, 70s, because that wasn't targeting children,
yeah.
right? And that is the most vile thing you can do. Um, so yeah, I think it's important for a lot of different audiences to see it.
I know it's difficult just to embrace everything, but I think now that we see the target so firmly on the transgender's back, we have to do things. And that's why this film of yours is very important, and I hope everyone gets to see it.
Thank you so much, Roger. It was really wonderful speaking with
Thank
you.
you for talking to us.
Oh, it's right there.